But unfortunately, I think that crime scene was so compromised that even if any individuals were ever brought to justice over it, and that means not through the federal level, there's not a crime scene to really acquit them because it's the same evidence that you can't acquit Karen on. So there's reasonable doubt, and eventually that's it. So really, it all comes down to the feds. If the feds ever step in or not. If the feds step in, they could, but it depends on what kind of information they've obtained. If they obtained information on any individuals that have blatantly been involved, and they have you have to have the evidence, from a federal level too. So I don't know, but I'll say this one thing right here. This is what I've always believed, and I believe this in my heart. The most important part about this whole thing is that Karen Reed never went to a prison for a crime she didn't commit.
Right.
We may never know who truly did this, right? We may speculate, right? We may have a lot of theories, right? And one of those theories could be spot on. Others might be partially right or close to right. But the most important part is that Karen Reed didn't go to jail for a crime she didn't commit. These powers that be that cornered her and tried to frame her and tried to pin it on the girl didn't get away with that, because I'll tell you right now, this would be a really dark situation right now if any jury had ever convicted Karen Reed and she was spending her life behind bars over this thing, especially when she didn't do it. So I always felt, if that's the least we get, if the very least we get out of this is that Karen Reed does not serve time behind bars and she is acquitted, and that's like it's like, okay, the people that were behind this, they're going to walk, and it sucks. I get it, and that's it. But the one thing we had, if we could only get one major victory, this was the one major victory we needed to get, because you couldn't afford to see Karen Reed behind bars. Because I'm telling you right now, if she was acquitted and they walked her out of there in handcuffs, as though you saw the bailiffs, you saw those people circling her, they were going to put John keeps cuffs on her. They were gonna cuff her, send her out there. And if you thought it was hard to try to get her acquitted through 2 trials, imagine what it was going to be like if they had convicted her
on an appeal.
And then you were going to try to appeal her out of that. Once they get her, it's going to be a really hard thing.
And they would have fucking marched her right out those
they were going
steps.
They were going
They would have pulled up the wagon and thrown her right in.
They were going to.
They would have been gleaming in that.
Yeah.
Would have been gleaming in that. Jason, thank you for the 5. So that's the Boston Police Relief Association to start and run a fund for his family and in his name. But where are they? That's an excellent point, Jason.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
It's always interesting when someone disagrees with me in the chat, but what they disagree with is actually something I basically said, which means they inherently agreed with what I said. So I just, I'm not saying anything in factual sense. I always speak in things in probability. So someone disagreed with me, but I don't think you really disagree with me, because what you said kind of was what I said. So I just want to address that person in the chat. I won't say their name. But
yeah. So, oh gosh, there's so much to unravel here. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, let's talk more about Karen though for a second, about the acquittal. I mean, this was huge for her because, she made a comment, and this was not well received by anti-Karen Reed. They didn't like the fact that she said no one has fought harder for John than her. Well, there was some criticism about that online, and there was someone on the news that did a news media interview and attacked her over that. But here's the thing. Karen Reed's right, because here's the thing. If everybody out there that's involved in saying Karen Reed did it, and then Karen Reed knows she didn't do it, then that means this whole time Karen has not had an opportunity to fight for justice for John when she's been trying to fight to protect herself. Well, a lot of people out there have been saying she's done it, but Karen Reed knows for a fact she didn't commit this murder. So in that sense, if she's the one person that knows for a fact that she didn't do it, and we all believe she didn't do it, and I know she didn't do it, but she knows for a fact because she was firsthand, not secondhand, involved in all of this. She knows she dropped him off. She knows she never hit him, right? She speculated for a while that she didn't hit him, but then more information came out as she learned this to get her to better understand, okay, I didn't accidentally clip him. I didn't do anything.
And she had to, her and her team had to tell this story because they had the odds backed up against them so much.
Yep.
But I do understand her comment, because she had to tell this story through 2 trials to show the public that I am not guilty and there was never a collision with me and John.
Yeah.
And to tell that story. And again, I get it. She said, no one fought harder than I did to get this story out and get the truth out there.
Right.
And that she did.
Yeah.
That she did by going through this pain and anguish, put into this situation, being charged with a false crime. And shame on the Commonwealth for putting her through all of this, to botch this investigation. Shame on those police departments that didn't do a better job. Shame on those witnesses for lying and conjuring this story, this story up. Listen, the evidence, the doctoring of the evidence, doctoring it up to make it over amplified and put all, we found out, Alan said, the 231-28 or 231-38, which is sick to think about this after that according to John's phone, he was alive and well after 12:31:38 or 28 seconds, I think it is. That either he or someone was accessing his phone after, and that is the Jen McCabe text message that he was either checking that or someone was checking it for him. That's sick. That's sick.
Yeah, this is a very deep situation. And you saw how far it went from one person. Everyone thinks, oh, a group of people all collaborated to cover it. No, they didn't. It was basically a one-to-one connection where somebody connected to somebody who connected to somebody who connected to somebody who connected to somebody. A lot of people had their hands in this, and they all had a vested interest in making sure they didn't go down for this, which is why they tried so hard to basically force as many trials as possible. But then you also see, it goes back to what happened to Turtle Boy in end of 2023 when he went off to jail. They did everything they could to shut down a journalist that was talking about what was happening. And I think that the big thing that scared a lot of those people out there that were covering this up was that he was revealing information to the public on public forums, through YouTube, through Facebook, through X, and other entities, including his own website, that had information that was extremely factual. And these individuals were trying to curb public opinion, which is why they didn't want Free Karen readers curbing public opinion or influencing the jury, which is why we had a buffer zone in the first place. And what they wanted was to basically shut him down. And when they sent him off to jail, I said it right on the internet. I go, this is the very evidence, right? I go, if you ever were a Karen Read supporter that for any moment had ever doubted her innocence or was not absolutely fully sure of her innocence, or if you had been a fence rider about a frame job on Karen Read and a cover-up of John O'Keefe's murder, the second they rode Turtle Boy off in that van in Dedham, in cuffs, the way they did, and they put him in jail for 60 days, that was the absolute verification that a cover-up and a frame job was going on. Because for the first time ever, you had a journalist, and not just a journalist, an American citizen with a freedom of speech, with constitutional rights, hauled off to jail because they were trying to do anything they could to shut him down over what he was saying online. Because they were, that's why they wanted, when they went to his house in October, this is why they wanted his phones. This is why they wanted his computers, because they knew that the information that was getting out there, either it was coming from whomever, but that information was very accurate, and they wanted to shut this thing down quickly. But I think the problem is I think there were already too many Turtle Boy supporters and too many Karen Read supporters at that time that were already publicizing and talking about this stuff all over the internet, to the point where it was too little too late to try to shut everybody up. And all they got out of it was they put Turtle Boy in jail for 60 days. And they still got outstanding charges against him right now. They're trying to get him on, and we all pray and hope that that will not happen, and he'll be able to walk. But this was, when, like I said, what happened to Turtle Boy was unprecedented. This was unprecedented, and what happened to Karen Read prior to that was unprecedented. And if for a moment, objectively speaking, well, not objectively speaking, let's look at it alternatively. Let's just say for a moment that Karen Read had done what the Commonwealth had said, that their theory was 100% accurate. Karen was wrong. We were all wrong, right? Well, do you think that if Turtle Boy was saying what he was saying in all those social media outlets, that they would have ever bothered to throw him behind bars? There would be no reason to throw him behind bars, because it would just be like people that make up random things that has no truth to it, and they would have never put him behind bars. So the very fact that they did put him behind bars is basically like telling everybody in plain sight, look at the power we have. Look what we can do. Look how we can silence people and shut people up. And all they did before the public was basically admit that they had the power to shut somebody up.
Well, just
to try to shut somebody, because they didn't really shut him up, but I mean, and just to try to.
And just to Alan Jackson's credit last night, he said the only reason they put you on that witness list
Right.
They wanted you out of the courtroom. He's like, I know that, and you fucking know that.
Right.
So
again, to limit him, and that's what they've tried to do. And I, like I said, I tried to correct myself, but yeah, they never did shut up Aiden because he was still able to get his blogs, articles going through his online website while he was still in jail through the Securus app. But they again, if Karen Reed is as guilty as they say,
which she's not.